Pearl Yachts has been having an absolutely brilliant time of late. Not only does it have its flagship 95, it has its award-winning 82, the smaller sibling to that boat, the 72, which is arguably even better, and it's now replaced its long-standing 62, its bestseller over the last 5 years, with the all-new Pearl 63. There are apparently 5 key differences between this and the outgoing 62, and 2 of those differences can be found right here at the back end. So basically, on the previous incarnation of this boat, the 62, you can pretty much fit a Sea-Doo Spark in there and nothing else. Well, here we have options. You can either leave it as a bench with a bit of a space in there, you can spec it as a tender garage big enough for a Williams 280, or you can spec it as a transverse crew cabin en suite, big enough as an overspill cabin for up to 2 quite cosy people. But the principle here is that this boat is relatively easy to drive. So we've got the big, deep, safe side deck. So we've got the skipper's side door, we've got joystick control and a pair of IPS drives. It's not a huge boat at 61 feet. We've got the external helm back there on the port side of the cockpit. You can helm from up top, of course. So you don't actually have to default to a crew cabin because you don't need crew to help you drive it. If you're going to go for a crew cabin, chances are that'll be either because you're offering this boat for charter or because you need a bit of extra overspill space. But of course, because we have 4 cabins down below, capable to sleep in 8 people, just as we did on the 62, and it was a big USP on that boat, well, you don't necessarily need to spec this space as an overspill cabin at all, and that means that you can have your tender tucked neatly away and keep this big high-low platform nice and free for leisure time. As for the cockpit itself, well, that is another change. In contrast to the 62, we've got a pair of high-low tables here, a wraparound L-shaped bit of furniture, and as you can see, on both sides we've got these drop-down terraces just to expand your cockpit outwards. That's all the rage these days, as everybody very well knows. It's a neat feature. Let's make our way along these side decks, and as we do so, worth noticing we've got a little side gate here. We'll just pop over to the other side to see we've got a side gate there as well. Yes, we do. And here's the 3rd helm. Everything you need there, thrusters, joystick. You'll notice as we move forward that the side decks are relatively narrow. Little step up here, another step there. This is natural teak, incidentally. Pearl customers still seem to favour that, although that's likely to change in the future. As I walk down this side deck, look, I mean, you can see that my shoulder, as a not particularly broad bloke, does just rub on the edge of the superstructure there. And the purpose, of course, is to give you enough space for the side decks, but not to waste any, because they want to use the bulk of that beam inside there, that 17'5" beam inside the saloon, where you can get maximum benefit from it. So I've got no issue with that compromise at all. As for the bow space, we have a forward-facing bench seat. We've got a decent size of raised sunbed forward of that, and you can, of course, face across the way and erect a dining table. And rather than that dining table going into the deck, you'll see there's no receptacle for it here. Well, apparently, if we lift this up, which I cannot do, I can do it. Yes, look at that. Good strong rams, but arguably they need to be slightly stronger just to give you that bit of assistance. Where you can see this table hinges out of this space into this section, so you don't need to find an alternative place to stow it, and it takes no time at all to rig. That's a lovely little touch, that. Let's close that back up and move round to the port side. As you'll see, we've got a decent bit of storage in here. The aperture's quite small, in fairness, to get in there, but once you're in there, it goes a good depth beneath that bench seat, so there's plenty of space for your gear. And if you move towards the forepeak, well, as luck would have it, somebody's already opened this hatch just to leave the marina here at Swanwick, and as you can see, there's plenty of space there for 3 or 4 fenders in addition to the anchor chain that sits down on the forward side of this little dividing bulkhead. Let's close that up for them and head further aft, as I say, down the port side. As we do so, you can see we've got a good size of screen. It looks at first glance like a one-piece screen, but as you can see, there are a couple of panels, but relatively narrow mullions, I think. And what I particularly like is the fact, even though we got a good size of flybridge up top with quite an elevated looking wind deflector, we also have space ahead of that wind deflector for additional panels. So if we stoop down and look inside, you can see there's plenty of light drenching the forward part of that saloon and the helm. And you don't necessarily expect that on a proper flybridge model. Moving aft, well, these rails are fantastic. They're kind of oval shaped, like the top end of the Princess line. High quality steelwork, that. And when we get round to the back end, well, access to the flybridge is on the starboard side, and that's a really good width. Decent gradient too, not too steep. Very secure feeling. And up top, well, it's a really good size. Broadly split into, I'd say, probably 3 sections actually. At the aft end, we've got a little L-shaped seating unit, a little sort of roaming seat. You can use that as a puff, just pop your feet up there for a bit of relaxation. I've got to be careful not to catch my fingers. Oh, there we are. You can see it's RAM assisted as well, so a neat little storage solution that. On the port side, I should say here, we've got a good size of sunbed with an angled backrest big enough for 3 or 4 people, I'd say. But there are options here. You can have a couple of these L-shaped units to make it symmetrical, or you can simply empty this deck and use nothing but freestanding furniture. Entirely up to you. In the second section, towards the centre here, beneath the hardtop, which is of course optional, we've got a good size of C-shaped dinette on the port side, opposite an equally generous wet bar. And if we lift that up, well, there's our electric grill. There's a good bit of workspace there as well, and a generous size of sink, plus a pretty voluminous little drop-in fridge, a little ice chest there. And underneath, I would assume we'll find a fridge and an ice maker. That's exactly what we get. Plus a little bit more storage there, so that's a good size. If we look up again, we'll see that on this first model, we've got the optional sunroof as well, just so you can drench this forward section in light. And as luck would have it, the guys from Pearl are modelling this section beautifully for me. You can see what a sociable helm position this is. 2 helm seats, fully featured helm too. The compass is slightly offset if you're the skipper. I prefer that slightly more to the right hand side so it's directly in your eye line. But plenty of space there, and a wraparound section on the port side, so you could easily fit a family of what, 4, 5, even 6 here on a long passage, so you know where your kids are. A comfortable little foot brace down there, all the switchgear you need. The joystick, of course. Plenty of shelter, and as I say, that wind deflector does feel relatively elevated. If I get down to sort of seating level, a little bit more storage here, a couple of cup holders. And look, I've just chased the skipper out of the way. We'll pop into his position and attempt not to crash the boat as we film ourselves going down the channel out towards Southampton Water. Exactly. But there really is some generous space here. You're not clashing elbows at all. And actually there's some good fore and aft space. Very often when your seat's back up against a wet bar, there's very little fore and aft travel, but you don't really need that here. We've got the seats slid pretty much as far aft as they go actually. They're butting up, but there's loads of space for a 6-footer and a little bit more if you want it. And we also got an adjustable wheel. You were about to mention we were driving into some boats there, weren't you? I was just too busy looking at stuff. No, good chef, feel free to scream if I'm about to crash. Bloody hell, boys. I nearly destroyed a £3 million boat talking about a foot brace. Jesus. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to step well away from the helm and let these gents, these professionals, take charge of it, and we'll head down below and take a look at that saloon and what those relatively narrow side decks do for the volume in there. As we do so, this is worth noticing. Now we open these up, basically what we have is some storage for your glasses, a bit of volume for your shore power gear, other bits and bobs. But of course if we hit the button, this entire section comes down, shifts out of the way to open up that aperture. These doors also hinge right out of the way, as you can see, creating tremendous integration between these two spaces. So that's a handy little bar if you want to mix the inside and outside, which people do tend to want to do. And once we're in here, well, there are changes here again over the old 62. A good size of galley on the port side, this slightly lower section at the aft end of the saloon. And on the starboard side, well, on the old boat, the starboard seating stopped at the same level as this, pretty much at the same level as that step. But as you can see, they've extended that further forward, pushed this bulkhead forward on the starboard side, creating a much bigger seating zone. And that's very useful because, of course, what we have here at the aft end on the starboard side is a staircase leading you directly down to the private owner's full beam cabin. So that's really handy, really useful uprated size of seating space on the starboard side. And if we move forward up this step, well, at the front end of the saloon, here's the light I'm talking about. Just look at it. Absolutely brilliant for a Flybridge cruiser. I would say that's tempered slightly by this trademark pearl spear, this fiberglass spear that divides these windows on the beam. So if you sit down, here's eye level, it does kind of get in the way of the horizon as you gaze about, which is a bit of a shame, but it is what it is. And certainly the size of the seating area on this port side is very generous indeed. I reckon you could sit at least 7 or 8 people there. And if I sit down and face forward, well, this is my eye line, you can just about see the horizon. So you don't feel in any way divorced from the goings on if you're on a passage. Again, at the helm we got a twin seats. The skipper shifted slightly inboard there, and as you can see, here's your skipper's side door. It looks to me like that moves out and into the starboard side deck, so that might make it a little bit more difficult to head fore and aft when that door is open. Either way, we don't want to miss this because this is quite cool. As you'd expect, we've got a TV comes out of the unit on the back of that bench seat there, so you can easily view it from this port dining station. But if we look down, what we have here isn't actually a bench at all. I shift this out of the way, very much like the section up top. You can shift these individual seat pods. I hope you can shift these individual seat pods. Oh, one-handed, there we are. Put those out into the space. I'll do the same with this one so you can see the effect of it. And you can generate a much more sociable sort of seating area because you've got this freestanding furniture. That's probably better rigged like that, isn't it? Facing across to those permanent benches. And of course you can shift these outside into the aft cockpit as well. So it's a particularly versatile solution. But of course, one of the real USPs of the 62, and it remains a USP of this boat, is the fact that even though it's a 60-footer, well, we've got 4 cabins down below. That's helped in no small part by the fact that we've got twin IPS drives down inside that engine bay, which means you can shift them further aft, no straight shafts here. What we do have though is extra power, or at least the option of extra power. So you can have the 1050s, you can have the 1200s, you can have the 1350s, so 800, 900 or 1000 horsepower on IPS drives here, and that promises to deliver around about 34, maybe even 35 knots on this boat, as opposed to the 31 knots that was pretty much the top end for that 62. And of course, in using IPS drives, you gain extra lower deck space further forward. So if you pop down this starboard staircase, execute a 360 and then turn right again, so we're now looking forward, this is what we see. A full beam owner's cabin with a dressing table and desk on the port side, a 4.5 bed bang in the centre, good size that, and on the starboard side a proper little breakfast bar. That is a lovely feature. I love to see this. You know, on boats like this there are plenty of storage solutions, so I just don't see the merits in having a big broad cabinet on one side of the bed and another big broad cabinet on the other. I want this kind of furniture so you can sit there with your partner have a coffee and a pastry, ease into the day in private before you go up and join the rest of your guests. We also got hanging storage ahead of that, a TV built into the bulkhead there. And if I move to the port side and look aft, well, what we have here is a transverse bathroom, a rain shower. They're a really good size, that, with some built-in shelving, easily big enough for 2 people. Love the finish here as well. As in other pearls, this is a Kelly Hoppen design, so you can have one of 3 finishes, either modern, luxury or indulgence. The modern is very pale and bright, and you move down the sliding scale of sort of lustrousness and darkness as you move towards indulgence. I think this might be the indulgence fit out, though I don't actually know. In any case, we've got the toilet outboard on the port side there, plenty of mirrored surfaces and a good deep window as well. And as you can see, if I point towards the mirror, well, we've got some really useful headroom there as well. So no complaints there at all. And of course, the fact that this bathroom is aft of the main sleeping zone, and the fact that we also have the stairwell coming down here with a bit of storage so you can shut that off, means, if I move back towards this rather lovely breakfast bar, that this zone of the boat is distanced that little bit further from the noise of the engine room. So that makes all kinds of sense. Now you've got to remind yourself this is just a 60-footer, because of course there's plenty more to see elsewhere on this boat. Let's pop back up this staircase and head forward through the saloon to the port side of the helm, where another staircase takes us down to another 3 cabins. There's a lovely big bright central atrium. If we look up, so much light just cascades down from that screen and from that additional bit of glass behind the screen. And in here we have quite a simple arrangement, a nice big VIP cabin in the bow. We have a heads compartment on the port side. We have the ensuite for the bow cabin on the starboard side. And then if we turn around and look aft, we've got a pair of twins, one on either side. And of course the port twin has access directly to the day heads on this port side. But we'll start with the bow cabin because that's the biggest, brightest and best of them. As you can see, plenty of access on both sides of the bed. Loads of headroom again. Rather lovely fit out again. And the amount of light you get from the little glass panel in the leading edge of that bow sunbed is very good. Really deep windows. Plenty of storage solutions inside the bed itself. 4 drawers down there, plus more hanging storage, and the same on the other side. And a little swing out seat here with a mirror, creating what amounts to a very compact, space-saving sort of dressing station. But let's fold this door over again. As we do so, it's worth noticing more mirrors. It really does help to brighten up the space. And head aft on the starboard side. This is the ensuite bathroom, and it makes very good use of the space. It feels actually much larger than it is. It's not a huge footprint, but as I say, space management is very good. So we've got a sink with some storage and mirrors on the starboard side, and behind that, on the angle there, making best use of space, is a shower, a good size with a little seat, a little window, and again a rain shower. Toilet on that aft bulkhead, a bit more storage. And if we head back out, head aft, you'll see that the port side is the place for the day heads. There it is, slightly larger actually than the ensuite for that bow cabin. Same order of shower though. A toilet on the forward bulkhead this time. Similar sort of style of sink, but of course you need a little bit of extra space so that you can unlock that door, get that arc of travel and access it from this port twin cabin. And that is a really good space. I'm actually going to go and stand down there, because as I do so, it's taking a step down, even though we've got a dip in bulkhead, where you see the headroom is excellent, around about 6'6" I would say. Loads of headroom again, of course, if you sit at the bed. And the depth of this window from bed level, really, really impressive. You certainly don't feel in any way shortchanged in terms of space and volume and fit out in a cabin like this. And happily, if we head back out into that central corridor, you'll see that we have pretty much the same over on the starboard side. Again, some hanging storage, again, a lovely deep window. And again, despite that dipping deck head, well, they've managed the deck itself beautifully to retain the headroom. This new Pearl 63 is certainly a very voluminous boat, but it's actually quite a decent one to drive too. Now, in spite of all that heavy equipment aft and that big flybridge up top, steps have been taken to mitigate that, most notably relocating the Seakeeper 9 from its natural home back aft in the engine room to a spot beneath the deck at the bottom of the steps to the forward cabins. And when you get underway, there's still a bit of bow lift, of course, but with some judicious use of those tabs, it's perfectly possible to plane quite flat at speeds as low as 14 or 15 knots. Outright pace is decent too. With the test boat's rig of twin 1000 horsepower IPS 1350s, we're seeing around 34 knots at the top end, as well as plenty of grunt en route to that. Now, you could of course opt instead for the IPS 1200s, which are 900 horsepower each, for around 31 knots, or the standard rig of IPS 1050s, 800 horsepower each, for speeds in the region of 28 knots. They're both based on the same block, so in terms of weight and space, there's no difference at all. But given the fact that the 1350s enable you to cruise at between 20 and 30 knots with relative ease and refinement, as well as a steady fuel flow and a consistent range of around 200 miles, it's likely that these most potent engines will be the most popular choice. Now, as intimated, this is a thoroughly unintimidating boat to drive, but there are certainly better places to do that than the main helm, because visibility both on the beam and the quarters is a bit hemmed in. The Pearl designers have tried to help with that by shifting the helm toward the centre, distancing it from the thick mullions that surround the skipper's side door. They've also left a very sensible gap between the two seats, so the co-pilot can come and go without inconveniencing the skipper. But even so, the fact that the skipper's side door obstructs your passage aft by filling the starboard side deck when open, and the fact that the transverse overhead beam offers a natural bumping hazard for unwary heads, means that buyers of this boat are likely to be better served by a combination of the big sociable flybridge station and the cockpit's optional third helm. Well, as you can see, we've arrived at Ocean Village Marina now, so my time with the new Pearl 63 is at an end. A bunch of new people are about to jump on board to take a look. So I'm going to make myself scarce, have a think about the boat and get back to you very shortly with a verdict. Well, I'm back home in the office now, and I feel pretty much the same now as I did when I was on the boat. This new Pearl 63 is a good looking, and as you'd probably expect, an enjoyably distinctive platform with first class cabins and an excellent flybridge. It does feel like there are more compromises on this boat than on the larger 72 and 82, not least in the livability of that forward saloon. But of course, that's often the case when the size parameters of a smaller flybridge cruiser kick in. And I think it'd also be fair to say that this sector of the market is not short on very capable, well-rounded flybridge cruisers from the big British and Italian manufacturers. And yet this new 63 is a better, more versatile, more user-friendly boat than the best-selling, multi-award-winning Pearl 62 ever was. So it remains, you would have to say, a job very well done. Now, if you've got something you want to say about this new Pearl 63, please do leave your comments in the section below. If you've enjoyed the video, hit like, and if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, then please do subscribe to the Motorboat and Yachting channel.